the bearded bear of Honda's bad investment bad investment builds. A friend of mine for a while, dynamics expert and the guy that I go to when I have dynamics questions, John Cotton. I realized I didn't ask if I could say your name, but I figured that was fine.
Yeah, dude, that's fine. That's fine. That's what the edit button's for if anything's not in there or anything
That's fair.
ends up in there.
That's fair. So yeah, so you and I have known each other for a while, lost touch for a little while there, but you were the one that trained me how to not suck at driving cars. Um,
Yeah.
and and then from there, I went on to be a tire engineer. You went on to continue being a vehicle dynamics engineer before starting your own business, Bad Investment Builds. Um, and so, yeah, I wanted to know what is, I guess, how do I say, what's the reason that you decided to start Bad Investment?
Um. Well, I left vehicle dynamics to give another career a try. So I'm currently technically in the sales organization at Multimatic, but I'm what's called a product engineer. So I'm kind of the knowledgeable bridge between the OEM and then the supplier engineering and manufacturing teams. So um, having someone who is cat's coming in, and
Yep.
he's gonna get hair all over the brand new product if I don't move it. Um, and it's so I guess I didn't quite understand exactly what the job was when I took it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot less hands on than going out on a proving grounds. You know,
Yeah.
probably on average 4 days a week if you average the busy season, the not busy season, and actually being at home.
Yeah.
But realistically, you know, I was out burning up tires 4 days a week, and some days, you know, you remember back in the Compass days when we were
Those could be long
tuning
days.
some very specific tire related safety issues. We were going through
Yes.
6, 8 sets of tires a day.
Yep.
Um, and So that was a pretty good job. Every single day was a science experiment where you've got the most advanced tech in the auto industry because OEMs are where the money. It's like the federal government of car development, right? Like
That's such a good description.
yeah, they have funds that you just can't get even in private engineering unless you're
No.
just a millionaire who wants to do his own thing. It's so spent 10 years doing these science experiments on cars every day, and then you know some young kids came in who were pretty sharp, and I didn't quite take education seriously up like before then. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want my experience to be outrun by modern education, so let's add to it. And I went back to school, and so I was a pretty heavy car guy, really into Hondas. When I was in college, I still have the same Honda I've had since 2008. And in dynamics, you work, you travel 5 months a year, right? And then when you're home and you're like me, you don't want to travel when you're home. So I kind of took a break from the car scene for like 10, 12 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I got this job, which was a little less physically hands on, a little less um, requiring of my time and in my efforts. You know, it was more of a management type thing, program management. And I made it about 2 months into that job where I just it's like I need to design or develop something, and I had really started watching YouTube in the last 6 months or so, like car channels,
Mm-hmm.
and was like, oh, people are doing cool stuff out there. You know, I kind of just signed off for a decade, like hung out with the people I worked with, and that was about it.
Yeah.
It's so like I got 6 months into this and watching people and me not doing anything fun, and I'm like, hey, I got kind of a better job. I'm in a better place to kind of take some time and play in the sandbox. So I get my Honda, and I'm like, my dream is to build the ultimate street based handling Honda, like
Mm-hmm.
period, like better than Honda's done. Like I just want to throw everything I can think of at it. Not in the sense like I want to make the coolest car or I want to dump a ton of money. It was like, okay, physics be damned. What can I get away with. Like, what can I do in a street based platform that is purely focused? I want the 7 second handling car, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted to do. And so I started making some plans and figure out what I wanted. And then I started buying parts, expensive parts. And I started having issues with every one of them. No matter what it was, the stuff that wasn't, if it's fitment or function or, maybe you have to modify your car in a way you didn't expect to. If the part itself was physically okay, the shop selling it, distributing it, whatever, would just be like the customer service out the window. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, I used to like look up to some of these guys and be like, man, I wish I could be you someday. And then I kind of meet them, and because I put a bunch of money in their pocket, they're willing to like socialize with me, and it just wasn't a good experience. And I got sick of spending all this money on on either subpar parts or subpar service. And when I had started working on the car, I started posting the stuff I was doing, and I came up with some solutions myself, and people started reaching out like, hey, can you make that for my car too?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, me, I'm like, oh, someone wants my help. I love helping people. I love teaching people. Like, this is
Yeah.
great. So I just started taking on job after job of just helping people. And a few more months went by, and my girlfriend was just like, okay, you are a little stressed. You're working 24/7. So either start making money doing it as a business, or focus on the projects you got to focus on and tell people you just don't have the time. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to turn people away. And I've always dreamed of having my own business because, like, back in 2011 when I was in college, I wanted some cool radiator brackets for my Honda. And so I had some carbon fiber water jetted, and just sold these carbon fiber radiator brackets like, 15 years ago. And I'm like, this is so cool. And I just wanted to make things. And so it's like, well, my job isn't demanding from like a product development side, which is what I crave. I'm all about optimization, systems level things, which is why I also do well in my job, because I can see things some people don't notice either, because they're either a straight development guy, or they're a straight design guy, or they're in business only, and there's just not
Yeah.
people are very compartmentalized. And so there's just a whole lot of reasons for me to like kind of take this on. And I thought my this was the original kickoff. It's like, okay, I want to make these parts for myself, but like I really don't have any money at all. I do have a good job, but things happen, and I'm like, okay, so I can design these and make 5 or 10 of them and sell them to other people and have that pay for my parts.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of originally what kicked it off. Is, hey, I'll do group buys, and that way I can fund my own race car by selling things to other people. And it turns out that didn't quite happen, because being a highly efficient, skilled, experienced problem solver and vehicle tuner who works for an OEM that has had processes developed pretty sternly for the last 20 years, at least written in a book, like everything's figured out. You plug and you chug and you do your thing. It's a little different at home, like the logistics. Like, when I started my business, I had access to a full machine shop, so I went in, they trained me on how to use everything. I proved that I wouldn't destroy myself or their machines, and I just had to I had to bring in my own materials and my own tooling, basically, but I could use all the CNC machines, the manual machines, the water jetter, laser cutter, like full everything, right? And I'm like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, we're going to build bibs. We're going to start with a couple products. And I started taking some orders and was going to kick off my first product, which ironically I've still never actually made. And then the machine shop decided to shut down one day. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're just gonna retire? That doesn't help me out at all. And so I got myself a mini lathe, so that suspension needs round parts more than anything else. But
Yep.
bushings, stuff like that. And so that's really what started it. Is I wanted to be the solution, or a solution in the market that I considered a problem. You buy a shifter from a cool company, and you get this big billet thing that looks sick, and you spend $1,000 on it just to find out that it doesn't quite fit the car, or like it's got more jiggle in it than a stock shifter because they put all the money in making it billet instead of like fixing the problems that need to be fixed. And so, my first product that really kicked off was the shift kits for Hondas, old Honda shifters, and it just started with, hey, I figured out this rod end actually fits on these older cables, and it, solid rod ends instead of like aluminum inserts or plastic inserts or
Mm-hmm.
stock rubber bushings. I'm like, oh, this is sick. And then it just like I kept fixing one thing after another, and next thing you know, you get this massive kit of parts. But like I went after the lash and the friction, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people requested that I made multi-link shifters where there's uh, where you traditionally just have like a lever that you move and it's got points that attach, where a multi-link has multiple levers, so like you can fit a lot of throw in um, a small package because you can use the multi-link mechanical advantage, but
Mm-hmm.
that introduces lash and or friction, and it's like I'm not trying to charge more money, I'm not trying to make it more complicated. So like the throw would only be reduced about 40% instead of 80, 90, 100%. But you get this shifter that it's just direct,
Yeah.
and it feels clean, and it feels good, and it does all the things it's supposed to do. And I could do that without needing all this fancy billet and stuff. And so I was putting all my money into what most people don't even consider. Uh,
Sorry for everybody who's listening on audio. The cat is looking for attention right now.
yeah, and he's a. Have you seen this cat before?
I don't know, maybe.
He's massive, like literally, he's a huge cat. Um, and it's so like I did realize that this was a hard learned thing in the aftermarket is people just want to look cool and they want their money to look well spent. And so
Yeah.
like making an OEM shifter feel like a Porsche shifter is for a very niche market.
Yes.
Um, because people really at the end of the day, like they don't want to pay for something they can't really see.
Well,
Um,
it reminds me, like there's a reason why ground control is in business.
Ground
And it's
control.
not yeah, and it's
Yeah.
not because they're good.
A-box springs and some billet purchase.
Yeah,
They're
and
at a
get
good
low,
price
right?
point.
They're at
They,
a really good price point. That is
it's
the main. I can't knock, like, if you're like 16, you got your first Mark 3 Golf. Yeah, fuck it.
okay. So
Um,
how about this? What can you do better? So ground control coilovers, I haven't looked at them in a while, but let's say what are they, 500-600 bucks for a set of coils?
dude, I don't know. In 2026 hours, like $3,000. I don't know, but
So they used to be
I think
like
my first.
400, 450, right?
I'm picking on ground control to be honest because I had ground control coilovers on my Mark 3. So yeah,
Right.
like I.
But and then Bilstein B8s, B6s, the monotubes, they're $100 a corner, right? For
Yeah,
almost any car.
yeah,
Okay. And Bilstein uses all the same internals between motorsports and passenger car dampers, right? So
yep,
like even if you're not going to touch anything, what can you do for under $1,000 that's better than Bilstein monotubes and ground control coilovers? Because
I
Bilstein
don't.
tunes everything, regardless if
Yeah,
it's aftermarket or not, right?
I don't think there is.
So if you want to go really low, you're SOL, because that's what happened to my Renegade. I put in Bilstein B8s and I put in H&R lowering springs,
Yeah,
and it was OEM plus. It was sporty. It felt great. It was a little more tied down in like the ways you want it to be. The car was flat. It everything
yeah,
went well. I just wasn't low enough. So of course I saw some SF racing coilovers show up on Marketplace and bought them for cheap and threw them on the car. And now I just do this everywhere I go. And
yep.
but they get the job done.
But
I
that's
like
but
their
that's the
vibe.
point. But
It's
that's
they
the
get the
point,
job
right?
done.
Like it's cheap and it looks good for what you're
Yeah,
going for. What you're going for is that you want the low look because you know, for the kids that buy them, right?
right.
Um,
And then they slam their car on ground control coilovers with stock dampers, and people are convinced that being low blows up stock dampers. It's like the pressure barely changes when you max out a damper. It's when you shove your piston rod into your base valve and smash the inside of your internals apart, and then you have metal shards floating around on the inside, and you lose the damping, and then they cut up your seals, and now your damper's blown. And
Yeah.
it wasn't because you're low; it's because you don't know how to set up a jounce bumper. Like,
It's it adds character, right?
yeah. Oh, here, come here, bud. You got to see this behemoth, actually.
Oh, that is a giant cat. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's a giant cat. He's huge. I'm a big guy. Look at this thing.
Seriously.
He's just such a big cat. All right, bud. That's all you get. Go on.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, so it's right. Like I've had a similar thought before, right? Like, hey, because you and I are the same in the fact that we've both done pretty much exclusively OE work.
yeah,
Actually, no, I say pretty much exclusively. I've done exclusively OE work like in my career,
yeah,
and so have you. Um, and so for us looking at it in the aftermarket, like I like the aftermarket because I like the people and I like the sort of scrappy nature of
yeah,
it.
for sure.
Um, it's different, right? We're about the same age, so we kind of grew up on some of the same stuff. That culture is there.
I want it
Um,
back
I do too.
so bad, and that's. I have some really long term, like fantasizing about my company doing well.
Yeah,
Um, I have some really long term goals on how to really like try to integrate the community. I don't know how familiar you are with like I don't know Dearborn, Michigan, where you'll like
I'm familiar enough. I mean, I lived in Michigan for long enough.
yeah, so you go down Ford Road and you'll see one family's name on
Yeah,
a building, and that building has a car wash, a gas station, a grocery store, a tanning salon, a smoke. Like
yeah,
it's pretty common over here,
yeah,
and like if we had the money to do so, we want like perfect world. We want to buy up something kind of like that, where
yeah,
there's a car wash. Um, Obviously like the business is there, so like the business is integrated with all this, so not only a repair shop but like the prototyping, the motorsports area. We want to have like a small cafe with like TVs and like a arcade, so like people just have somewhere to hang out.
yeah,
Because like it's really sometimes I struggle to remember what it was like before social media and cell phones, and it was like, what'd you do after school? You just went and drove around. You just went
yeah.
out and you drove around. Maybe you'd find a spot to hang out. I used to run Northwest Tuners, which was a massive forum back in the day. I was one of the admins there, and we put car meets together. And we would, I would have to go work with a local business to get permission and from them. And ironically, Denny's was all the Denny's in the Pacific Northwest. They're big car people, and so
Denny's goaded as
yeah,
usual.
it's so they would get we'd set up some rules and people respected those rules, but you just go find somewhere to hang out. You didn't sit at home scrolling and stuff like that. And it's so I would love to build kind of this place where car people can hang out. It's like a car show in the parking lot every day if you want. But you can come in and learn if you want to learn. You can come in and hang out. You can do sim stuff like I want to do something where I can kind of bring culture back together. And if I take that even one step further, another thing that Maggie and I have kind of fantasized about is being landlords. So imagine M1 concourse, but not for rich people.
Yeah,
Basically, like a neighborhood where you are. I hate HOAs, but like that would kind of be what it would be like. But there's like a big shop area where everybody can kind of hang out. They can go into work on their cars. Everybody's
yeah.
got their own like small, like I don't know, like
Instead of
shipping
like the
container house and
shitty
garage.
gym and the pool, you've got a
Yeah,
shop area. Yeah,
and I think it would be just really cool to have like a neighborhood, um, where if you're a car guy, you can afford your own place. You can own
yeah,
it. You can have a small shop, but in your neighborhood down the street is whatever resources you need. Like it's the
yeah.
clubhouse.
That would be
Um,
great for me when I inevitably need to do the timing chain on my Audi.
and like maybe have
I
some
can
kind of
hear the
proving
rattle on
grounds.
startup. I'm like, fuck.
We're like an eighth mile, like a skid pad. Like I would love to do like a trade school where you are learning engineering and vehicle development, like, and it's kind of all of it.
Yeah.
Einstein wasn't a genius because he had an high IQ. He was a genius because he studied all day and then went home and practiced.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, it was hands on. He kind of did everything. And so the compartmentalization of everything nowadays, I don't think is helping because, I help a lot of these younger kids out locally and they're doing stuff with their cars that we would have been shamed for, when we grew up. And like we
Oh yeah.
put AutoZone APC neon lights on our cars and all, like we did some of the worst, grossest stuff, but like they're not using torque wrenches on like anything. They're not looking up any instructions. They're looking on YouTube for instructions on how to do something from another guy who claims to know what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, holy crap.
Well, it's funny because I've never been a big wrencher, right? Like I haven't. It's I
Stance boy.
the thing is my like thing with cars has always been like I like the cars and stuff, but I also have other stuff that I've been into, and um so like I haven't been a big wrencher, but like I at least know like hey, if I'm gonna dig into this, like there's a fucking torque spec or like there's
Yeah.
there's like and
You
I
just have
ate
to
my
assume you
words.
don't know. Be a
Yeah,
little curious. Grab
that's
a
exact.
repair
Yeah,
manual.
like I ate my words. I ate that like hubris on losing a caliper bolt in the Q7 once. Like
Yeah,
driving home, and all of a sudden it's scratching, and like I look out and like why is the caliper touching the wheel now? Oh, because I forgot to tighten down the freaking M. I think it's an M16 bolt
probably. Yeah.
to hold the calipers on that thing
Yeah.
on the front. I'm just like, well, yeah, I should have known that. Like,
So I've
you
never had a
know,
wheel completely fall off, but I've gotten close.
oh
Like
yeah.
I've made so many mistakes too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're gonna make mistakes. Like you're gonna screw stuff up. Like it's gonna happen.
But we were hanging out with each other and we had older guys who knew what they were doing to help us out.
Yeah, and
And
that's
like
like I still just a
that's
couple
not
weeks ago, I was up in Michigan, because I had to fix. Yeah, sorry, I was busy. Um, so I have this DRZ that I bought, like years ago, right? Between my first divorce and my second wife, and I bought it with the intention of learning like to ride a dirt bike. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to ride a motorcycle. And it was like 3 weeks later that my girlfriend, who's my wife now, was like, hey, by the way, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, well, shit, there goes that. Um, so it just kind of sat, and then I moved, and it stayed with my buddy up here, and then and I was gonna sell it, and he's like, hey, by the way, it doesn't start now, and I'm like, crap, and so and he's got a bunch of stuff going on, so like I had to go up because I had to physically be present to get the teardown started to rebuild the carb, because I knew if I wasn't physically there, he was just gonna put it off, and so I was like, dude, I'm coming up to Michigan, we're gonna do this. I had no idea what I'm doing, but I'm like, all right, we're gonna I'm going to go with my buddy because he knows how to rebuild these things, and we're going to rebuild a carburetor.
yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to do that in a day if I didn't have somebody who knew better because he's been doing this forever.
Hey, I put a K series in an Integra today in an hour.
There you go.
My buddy's house.
Yeah, I
He's like, I'll
will.
get your hoist back as soon as I can. I'm like, bro, I'm going with you. We're gonna put the motor in right now.
Yeah, that's the
Also,
fun
because I
part.
want my hoist back right now. But no, we went and knocked it out. And it took
Yeah,
us about an hour. It took us longer to drive there and back.
that's not bad. That's the fun
So
part. I also need to do, I found out yesterday, I need to do the motor mounts on my Q7. Um, this is the joy of owning a 70,000 mile Audi is eventually is that you have to do everything all at once.
that's funny.
They're hydraulic motor mounts, which I'm sure you're more than familiar with leaking hydraulic motor mounts based on
Uh,
some of our past experiences.
yeah, hydro mounts. My 93 Accord has hydro mounts if you get an automatic transmission.
Really?
Yeah. And pneumatically controlled, too.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So
Um,
they're leaking, but like I had started it, right? And I was like, okay, that sounded kind of weird. And I didn't have it in drive, right? So there's no additional load because right, all-wheel drive plus longitudinal. So like you put it in gear, it doesn't move quite as much, and I just like revved it a little bit, and I just felt the whole car go bump, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's not good.
The end of last year, I realized I've been focused on the business for the last 3 years, and I've not worked on any of my own cars, but they
Yeah.
all needed maintenance.
Yep.
So that's what I'm working on right now. The Jeep's ready to go back together now that I got the T case fixed. But, anyways, back to the business stuff because that's what we're
Yes.
supposed to be talking about.
Technically.
Yeah, like I want to teach. I want like my goal. Like people won't do things because they're scared of messing up,
I know that
and
feeling.
like people think things are way more complicated than they really are. And so I like this cheat sheet stuff that I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
I want to be. I want stuff to make sense to people. Um, and so that's been something I've always enjoyed, and the whole teaching and spreading knowledge is something I'm kind of trying to dive into with this cheat sheet stuff right now. But as far as like my business goes, I signed on to way too much the first year, and then stayed committed to it the second year, and then last year was like, yeah, you need to linearize yourself, or you're never gonna get anything done because it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And like
Yeah.
this last Christmas, I was like, okay, we're gonna get caught up. I got 2 weeks off. Let's put on the board everything I got to do. And I was like, oh, I should really focus on things that I've already started, that I have product or material for, that I have to finish. So let's only focus on those few things. And I filled up my whiteboard, and I think it's got about 70 items. And that's when I sat down and realized I have like 70 projects I'm actively working on that I actively think about every single day, and I just don't think about it because I got ADHD. It just don't My brain doesn't slow down. So like I realized, okay, this is really overwhelming. This is very apparent how overwhelming this is. Too much to
Yeah.
manage.
Yep.
And so I've added very few projects since I wrote the whiteboard, and I've been slowly knocking things off. Um, and it's just a bunch of random stuff. But I need to get back to working on my own cars because so like in my business model, I'm like my car doesn't run because it's a race car that I'm trying to build, but I still have to develop product, which means I need to test product. So then I tried working with product testers, and that was a horrible idea. Like,
Explain that. I'm not familiar with that.
well, I would make a prototype,
Yeah.
be fairly confident, but need to make sure it would work. So I would make deals with people where like, hey, you'll get this at a discount. I'll make sure what you finally end up with is production representative and all problems are fixed. I need you to install it on your car, give me feedback on what's wrong, what the issues are, and then put miles on the car. So I was seeking out people who were actively driving, actively going to meets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like it really didn't work out. Like I had a really big project with the CLS6 transmission mounts where I had a group buy with like 60 people on it. And I was going to
Yeah.
sell these, I think, for like 450, $500 a piece. So like
Yeah.
that was like 30K right there in
Yeah.
sales. Um, and I had these prototypes. I think we're about $1,200 a set for these billets.
Okay.
And I was like, that's fine because I'll get the money
It's
back
like you'll take it off
later.
the top,
And
you
it's
know.
yeah, and it's good for the risk. And so I sent these mounts out, got zero feedback. Dude's like, oh, I broke my car, so yeah. And I'm like, what do you
You're like,
mean? Okay, can you take him out and send him back to me? And he's like, no. And then I never hear from him again. And then I got people messaging me for like a year. Hey, you ever gonna make these? I'm just like, I don't have the money to make another set right now, and it's kind of fell down on the bottom of my list. I know that doesn't sound good from a business standpoint, but
yeah.
I got bills to pay, and
Yeah.
it's been a kind of a I've been hit by about everything you can be hit with since I started my business, and
Yeah.
so I'm focused on what I can do now. But
I'm
like,
curious because you brought up the revenue, right?
uh huh,
Because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. As I think most people maybe listening to this probably recognize it, but if you don't, right, revenue is not how much money you're actually making. And
yeah,
you alluded to that with like, okay, so say 30K, right?
hmm
In total revenue, one prototype that you lost out on is like $1,200. That's not a small chunk of the total revenue right there. Not to mention production costs.
yeah.
Like, what margin would you be looking at?
So it's kind of evolved, but I finally just have I put this calculator together where because there were things I wasn't accounting for. Like I didn't realize that I was giving everybody 550 in stickers and in air fresheners, the boxes, $5-6. The shipping is I hate talking about shipping so much because like if you're a small business and you're not doing like I'll go like 3 or 4 months without any sales because like I
Yeah.
can only sell what I have manufactured and
Mm-hmm.
I can only manufacture things if my machines work and I can't really afford nice machines. So like
They don't always
I
work.
have way more customers ready to give me money than I have the ability to provide product, which is a place I absolutely hate being stuck in.
Yeah.
But like I got 15 amps of power on a good day with 120 and I'm trying to like manufacture stuff. It just like trying to use the media blaster and the air compressor just doesn't work. I got an extension cord I run into the house across the yard just to use my media blaster, like
Yeah.
it's a pain. But so you start taking things into account. You've got your, I use PayPal, so I've got a PayPal fee and
PayPal fees, what, like, is
three
it
and a half
flat
percent
rate? And I thought it
of
was
the
flat rate
sale.
plus percent.
It's just 3.5% of the sale price.
Okay.
Um,
So, and how much
so
were
that's
these? Like 350, you said? 450 for.
450 for some mounts. Yeah,
So
like
that's,
$20,
for
something like that.
reference, that's like 1575 plus $5 in stickers plus $5 for the box, not to mention shipping it. You're at 25, $26.
Okay, now add
Just,
21% for tax.
yep. So that's what, 450. Yeah, hold on. I'm clicking this. Yeah, so taxes $95. So of your $450 part, we've covered swag, box, not even shipping, taxes, not even manufacturing cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're at 20, we're at about a third of the total cost of the part.
Actually, this is a really good. I got a great example. Let's switch to
Okay.
shift cables because that's what I'm
Yeah.
mostly known for right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody supplies like drop-in OEM replacement quality cables. I think Hybrid Racing probably has the best deal where you just get a solid, good quality replacement cable, but there's still some um, aspects from a design standpoint that don't quite scratch my tism itch for because like a lot of cable companies will use solid rod ends like eyelets, right?
Yeah.
It's literally just a hole, and so
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that to work you have to have a gap,
Yep.
otherwise it'll have friction and not be able to
Yeah.
move, right? So that
Yeah.
gap introduces lash, that gap
Yep.
introduces friction. Technically no arc moves in a perfectly
Mm-hmm.
straight line, so like you have bending and that bending can cause additional wear to your cables, which
Yep.
is why OEMs use either plastic sphericals or they use rubber bushings because they
Yep.
can move, right? um and I wanted a really high quality cable. I bought cable components from a bunch of suppliers and I ended up sticking with Cablecraft. Found out later that that's also what Quafe uses for their limited slips. Like everybody that makes good stuff uses Cablecraft. And so I started making these cables and to get them to drop in like OEM without supplying like a new bracket or something, I
Mm-hmm.
had to make an adaptation to the bulkheads that they supply. So I would order custom lengths and stuff like that, and then adapt them to the vehicle. And I had some custom rod ends that I had made, some custom adapters that I had made. And I finally get this really good solution, and I start selling for $450. And then I go back through the bill of materials and realize that I left this out, I left that out. There's this labor, and all of a sudden I realize I'm not making any money selling these cables at 450,
Yeah.
like literally no money. And
Yeah.
like everybody else is selling theirs for $400
Yeah.
because they have economies of scale
Yep.
and the components are I'm not going to call them bad quality because they're good quality, but there's different solutions to different things.
There's like the 80% solution, it's better, but not perfect. And like you're looking for
Right.
the best thing that you can possibly make.
I want to add the most performance possible with the least amount of cost.
Yeah.
And if something is an engineering no then I just won't do it. And so like having a solid rod end in a joint that articulates in more than one dimension, like that's just a no for me.
Yeah.
So that means I have stainless and brass PTFE rod ends, which are kind of expensive. Now I got to sell them for $600 to make any money. The design's finicky. It's got a shit ton of parts, like to make it work, because I can't manufacture a ton of stuff. Everything I have to do is small scale. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to sell these cables for 650, and it's not going well. Um, but if I had like a CNC lathe that was reliable, I could just completely bypass the adaptation and just completely make my own custom bulkheads that fit to the car. So then I've tried pricing them and having machine shops do it, and I'm still going to end up at $600 a set.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's easier on me labor wise and easier on the customer, but the price doesn't change, and that's kind of the main issue, right? It's so if I had, an extra 20 grand to invest in a decent like small CNC lathe and in more upfront things, I could make a lot more money. And also I could save the customer a lot of money. Like, I'm not trying to, I want to make as much money as I need to off the business to get myself out of the American capitalist dream of drowning in debt for no reason whatsoever. I just want to be able to make enough money to have a house that I own on my own property where I can have my shop, work at home with my kids, be at home with my family, and like make the world better and make cars better and like be doing this. I don't want to
Yep.
get rich. Like, I don't want to charge a ton of money. And that's something else I struggle with, because there's a product. Oh, my hoodies. I originally had them listed for $55 because I'm like, $55 for a hoodie, that's a lot of money. But hey, I'm providing,
Yeah.
it's not just a logo on a shirt. It's
Right.
information. It's a conversation starter. It's
Right.
cool stuff. And then I realized that the way their stuff worked is I was making no money at all at
Yeah.
$55. I'm like, how am I? Because I'm using a print service, right? So like, if I could
Yep.
buy in bulk, I would
Yeah.
save a ton
It's
of money,
is it,
right?
so are you buying like it's print on demand, right?
Print on demand, so I
Yeah.
don't even see the
Yeah,
product.
those are fucking nothing. You make pennies on that.
Yeah, it's like penny stocks,
Yeah.
but it takes zero capital on my end, right?
Yeah.
I upload the design, it sells or it doesn't.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
granted, it's marketing,
oh
but
yeah, but from a cost standpoint, if I could buy 100 of each version, or the cost
goes
cuts
way
in
down.
half,
Yeah.
and then I do the shipping, and they charge what they charge for shipping, where I
But the
could be
shipping on a
using.
t-shirt isn't heavy.
No, but it's still $10 because they have to do all the logistics and like
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
where, and I can't throw stickers in because then I have to have them make the stickers, and like,
Yep. Yep.
it's, so at the end of the day, like, it's a great option for me to try to make money. If I have some
Yep.
good ideas, then I could make $5-10 every sell, whatever.
Yeah.
um it's, so that's the hardest part with starting out in the business, is if you're just trying to claw your way out of things in your own garage, it's, and you don't have money and you don't have capital, like, it's, here, we'll get it. um it's really difficult. And so I feel like mostly what my business has been in the last probably 18 months is just figuring out how to move forward in a way that I can, first of all, but
Hmm.
also, like with the cable things, there's a, if you don't half-ass things, you're like, okay, well, I could do it this way, but that's either a lot of work or a lot of investment, and I can get away with doing it this way, and that stuff can kind of start rolling downhill.
Yep.
Um, it's so, if I just focused on cables when I started 3 years ago, which is kind of what kicked it off, I probably would have had the ability at that time to just straight up invest in exactly what I needed to get that moving and focus on that one product to
You'd
move
also
that
have
product forward.
3 years of cost savings, cost reduction, like
Yeah,
through efficiency put into it, like ignoring the tooling or whatever. Because again, you and I, right, we come from the OE side of the business. We know what continuously focusing on trying to make it a little bit less expensive without without destroying quality can
right.
do. Um,
That's
that was
also
one
been a
actually one of the
struggle.
reels I got the most amount of shit for when I made
Yeah,
was like saying like, look, it's not planned obsolescence.
it's
It
not.
is it is literally like there is an expected life, and we do everything we can to make sure it is at least that good,
Yeah,
because fucking costs are runaway. People don't realize automotive is not a high margin business. It
no,
really isn't.
no
I remember some like
volume.
Ford years where they were like, "Oh yeah, we got 8%." And it's like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then you look at the breakdown, you're like, "Oh, 4% of that was Ford Financial." You're like, so you made 4% on the cars.
Yeah. And the other thing is like I was I jumped into this because I had learned so much as an OEM development engineer, doing these studies every day, like really looking at the granular fine tuning everything.
Yeah.
And I I was passionate about the job, but it was still work, you know?
Yes.
And some days are ride tuning and tire testing at work early, at work late, engaged all day, but like
Yeah.
doing the paperwork or moving cars around for other tests, like it's not super it's a day job just like anybody else.
Organizing the
You
tire
got to get it
room,
done.
checking
Organizing the
all
tire
the
room.
checking all the specs. Nobody at the none of the freaking tire companies use a common spec convention, so everything's
Yeah, you're
like,
like making phone calls. Okay, this tire's got like four stripes. It's a red, yellow, blue, brown. And they're like, "Are you sure it's not like a red, brown, blue, yellow?" I'm like, no, I'm pretty. Wait, flip the tire around. Okay, maybe, but we also have that one too. And it's like, okay, um,
yep.
but when you're doing your business, you're super excited and engaged in everything. And like this, I swear, I my brain is the most elastic it's probably been since I was a small child. Like me
Yeah.
being so curious about everything, like I'm able to kind of figure stuff out that I kind of teach myself things in moments because there's all these dots that I never connected, but I'm aware of them now, and sometimes they just
Yes.
kind of fall together, and I'm like, oh, start at the atom, work your way up, and you can derive things that you didn't really understand before just because you were randomly thinking about it. It's
Yep.
so like I'll start developing a product, and I'll be like, this is a great idea. I'm going to go through and do this, and I get to the end of it, and then I look at it, and I'm just like, so much easier and half the cost if I just did this different.
Yeah.
But now I've got this whole developed product, all this prototype investment, like all this time investment, and it's like I have to throw it away. And so like something that I'm not great with is throwing that away and then okay, now let's finish it. My life was kind of crazy, like really crazy in many aspects, and so I was kind of in survival mode for a couple of years, and it's like I would get pissed. I'm like, all right, I got too much other stuff to worry about right now. This can't progress. So F that. I'm gonna go work on things I can progress. And it's like,
Yep.
okay, so now I'm going back and revisiting things. Like I
And
haven't
I'm
talked about it
sure
publicly because
you
like
have issues with just like, you get to the last part, they're like, all right, let's just get this off my plate. And you're just like, fuck.
yeah. So like this
Yeah.
whole CLS6 powertrain mount thing.
Yeah.
I came up with a bushing design that was super ingenious and I tested it. I even rate tested the OEM bushings and then rate tested my bushings, and they were like spot on what they needed to be. But it was a manufacturing process that doesn't exist. It's something I invented, and I created a really cool, affordable product that was a lot of labor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wasn't 100% sure about how it would do in the environment. So I needed actual feedback. I needed big power cars in the dead of summer, like to really put these things to test. And it was such a good idea and it was such a good design, and if everything had went through it would have been fine. I think, um but I can't really I've matured a little bit and learned a little bit since then, and I don't really want to go back to that. So it's I got like 40 bushings that I could probably put together and sell. I probably will do that. But as far as the mounts go, I could have just done sheet metal mounts and still good ones, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then I found a bushing supplier that has characterized bushings in a catalog. They're for machine mounts, so the sizes and the rates are not ideal, but they're
Hmm.
vulcanized bushings that are fully characterized. And I know the environments that vulcanized rubber can survive in. I know, like, I because of the OEM side, I'm super
Hmm.
familiar with that. It's so I've actually redesigned these mounts, and I have bushings in the garage that I just need to throw in that I can get from a regular supplier. So it's kind of a mantra shift.
Yeah.
Where it was like, hey, I can save a bunch of money if I do it this way, and it'll be cool. But in the real world, shit happens.
Yep.
Like, maybe that billet or my machine shop. Actually, yeah, I was doing so. I prototyped all my own stuff because that's like it doesn't cost me a ton of money to prototype my own stuff, but like, what takes me 2 hours on a lathe or a mill takes a CNC machine 5 minutes, right?
Yep.
And like, I don't, I can't pay myself to do production work at home because
No.
I'm not efficient. So like, I had a machine shop in China that I was working with, and they were great. Like, really awesome people. And like I worked in China for a couple months and actually ran into a guy who was physically there when you almost rolled the car over that I was sitting in the passenger seat for. And I was like, no, that wasn't me driving. Ran into that guy in China. It was hilarious. But yeah, I worked
No,
with
that
this
was the
company and they
that
were
was that
great.
new kid.
It was the new kid. Yeah. And they check in on me. They randomly message my girlfriend, check in on her, make sure she's having a good day. Like, we were sending memes back and forth with the sales team and the engineering team, like just a normal business, but they're in China. And then last year happened.
Yep.
So I can't
There
make
went all
profit
your
on
margin.
products I've developed. Like in the catalog, I can't even
Yeah.
sell them now. Um, so that's why I got a Bridgeport. Trying to vertically integrate a little bit more, but that also means I'm not going to be doing a bunch of the small batch stuff because I
Yep.
just don't have the capital to do it. Group buys are a different story. Um, but to answer your question, you asked 45 minutes ago, I will make anything for anybody if they have the money to pay me. I have the engineering skill, and if I don't, I'll make sure I work with the people who do. I can have stuff manufactured as long as you're willing to pay the machining costs. So if you've got a Lamborghini and you want to piss off everybody else, I got you, man. I keep seeing these $20,000 billet knuckles that show up on Instagram that have only existed in CAD, but they're for sale on a website. I'll actually make those for you.
Yeah.
Um, so right now I'm just focused on working on my cars because I need to grow my business's brand because marketing is the most important thing now. Most of the aftermarket is buying non-engineered for better or worse. For better, they're cheaper and they probably work. Because of that, for worse, maybe it's a structural part like a control arm
Yeah.
that you've got welds on like a 5 millimeter thick piece of 4130, which is a big no-no because that's a fatigue issue. In the aftermarket, you don't really know that because people don't drive the cars long enough for that to become an issue, or they break them on the racetrack where you expect them to anyways, right?
Yeah.
And so
As
the aftermarket
engineers,
is
we
buying subpar
generally,
parts.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and as engineers, right, we generally crave stability, most of us.
yeah,
And so we go to companies that give us salaries
yes,
and then we get to do things. So
yeah.
there's not a ton of engineers or like, more experienced engineers who are like, yeah, let me give all of that up for the whims of TikTokers. Like, yeah, it's kind of a crazy like it's sort
Because
of a
of
crazy
marketing,
thing to,
people are buying all this stuff, right? And
yeah.
so
Well,
I
how do you
still am
expect
not
them to know
convinced
better?
that everybody who's successful in the aftermarket, and I understand how this looks. They say you cannot engineer products, like fully engineer products, because you won't make any money. And
I think there's
I haven't figured
some
out how to do
truth,
that yet,
maybe,
but I
but
like a challenge.
yeah, I think there's some truth to that.
I think there's a middle ground, right? And that's what
I
I'm
think.
trying to discover. And right now, I just need to focus on my cars so
Hmm.
that I can get them running. I mean, I've built this business 3.5 years. I've got, I think I just rolled over 14K on Instagram, and no
Did you
one's
really?
ever
You got
seen me
4K
drive
in the
my own
last couple
car.
months? You got
Like,
4K in the last couple months?
that last video I posted was like 1,000 followers. I'm either at 13 or 14. I rolled over one of them. I'm
13, nice. Yeah, because
13.
when you and I connected a couple months ago, you were still at like 10. And you're like, I've been at 10 for years. It's not moving. And now you're getting some momentum. That's great.
Well, when you and I started going after people, it got me a little more attention. But also it got me more involved with the community, which I think
Yeah.
is the biggest thing, right? People like so like if you message me on Instagram, I'll talk to you. I get so many people and it's funny because I remember being like that. I remember like wanting to talk to the people you saw on DVDs that you'd buy from Super
Yeah.
Street, right? Or like you'd hear about the guys running 8 seconds in a quarter mile in a Honda, and like the shop owners. Like it's you're kind of starstruck when I
A
guess you're
little
younger,
bit. Yeah.
right?
And then you meet
And
them.
then when I left little old Idaho and came to Detroit to work at Stellantis, my first internship, I was starstruck. There were the SRT guys, and I was like, I'll do anything I can to hang out with you guys and absorb, right? And then I grew up and realized that most people that I looked up to weren't worth looking up to. Um, and now I get these messages from people, and they're like, "Hey, man, like, I don't want to bother you." And it's like, "No, you're not bothering me. I'm just a human, man. Like, whatever."
Yeah.
And like, they're like super excited. I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome. Like, that's super cool." And they'll like talk me up, and it's like I just spent some time in a textbook and like focused on some things. Like, I'm not some superhero. I'm just a guy.
That's
Like,
what I've been saying because I get a ton of people reaching out too. Like, because, right, my content is entirely focused on education stuff, which,
yeah.
by the way, the fact that you guys listen to me scares the shit out of me. I know more than some of you guys, probably a lot, but like, I don't consider myself like if we're being honest, right? When it comes to dynamics, complete like dynamics at all, I am like a little baby compared to what you know, you
Well,
know,
so like I
and
got a ton of experience, like hands-on experience, and like a lot of stuff was forced down my throat. And I graduated with my master's degree like
yeah,
6 months before I left Stellantis. Oh, actually, 12 months and like 2 days. Otherwise I would have had to pay the tuition back. That's exact.
good
It was
call,
12 months. It
good catch,
was right
yeah,
after the 12-month mark after I
yeah,
graduated, and so like I hadn't started appreciating the academic side of vehicle dynamics until the end of my dynamics career. But
yeah,
then starting up this business and just like, okay, I have to set up my own hard points. Let's deep dive. Because, like,
yeah,
really, we didn't do hard points a whole lot. Like, the older guys and like the managers would get on the early body and white stuff. But realistically, we'd be told what our hard points were,
yeah.
we'd be told what our masses and CGs were, and then
Yep.
we're told, okay, go figure it out, right?
And then you've got the tools that were created by
Other
like
people.
one tool was created by some guy 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's been slowly improved upon. But there was this one guy who was like, this was his 40-hour a fucking week job for like a year
Yep.
just to come up with this thing. I've had similar moments, right? Because I'm in tires. So, like, my main thing is tires, which, of course, when it comes to like actual computation, like doing the math, it's impossible 90% of the time, right? Like, tires is such a heavy test thing
Yeah.
because the actual math is like a good
State
correlation
space,
on like a
bro.
basic
Once you
uh,
figure
but
out
a
state space, you don't have to learn any more math.
but like a good correlation on like a basic tire model, right, is like something that wouldn't really get you past like early prototyping.
Yeah.
And so it's fucking hard. And so I meet these people and I talk to these people and I'm like, you guys are brilliant. Like, I don't even deserve to be in the same room as you. You get
Yeah.
those moments and then you're like, yeah, but like you've been doing this day in and day out with all of the resources that you need for 15 years,
Millennials
40
have
hours a
imposter
week.
syndrome, bro.
Dude, I'm like, and then I talk to people, especially like, cause right, I've talked to a lot of FSAE kids. Like, that's probably the one that like the most
Yeah.
that reach out to me. And I'm like, oh, that's right. The last 15 years of my life has taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I don't realize it until I'm in that moment.
Yeah.
Um, I'm like, oh yeah, this there's fucking like there's levels to this, but it's just getting back to people reaching out. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool that people reach out. I had someone ask me the other day, it's like, how did you do dynamics? It's like dynamics at some point. I'm like, bro, I applied to a job. Like, it was there. I was unhappy in my current job. I got an interview. I got the job. Like, that's all it was. I didn't like set up my whole life to be like, yeah, I'm gonna be a dynamics. Like I didn't. It was just like, hey, this sounds cool. I like this. I figured out that I like this in college, and there was a job available, and I got it. That's
Well, I
it.
didn't even know dynamics was a thing. I mean, it makes sense, but like, I didn't
Yeah.
even plan to go to college. Like, I ran, like, someone signed me up and I just went with it. And then someone's like, hey, don't waste your time or money. And I'm like, I don't have any money to waste. So, okay, I'll figure out what I want to
I
do.
don't have any
And I
money to
hate
waste, so I guess
school.
all I got is time.
Yeah. And I'm like, I hate school. So I don't want to spend any more time here than I have to. I just want to get my degree and get a job.
That was how I felt too. And I didn't.
Yeah.
I did. I kick myself in the ass. My wife hears this from me all the time. I kick myself in the ass every day for not caring more when I was in school.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man. I regret it so much. Like, because it's interesting how many times you learn the same thing at different levels in school
Yeah.
and then you finally get it. But it makes sense. Like going back to my Einstein thing, he didn't just read a textbook and be like, okay, that's the information. No, it was like that damn understeer equation that I
Oh
spent
my god.
one and a
Yeah.
half days of my vacation just simmering over, even though I already knew it. Like that's how you figure stuff out. Like that was one equation I stared at for 36 hours.
Yeah.
Like, and it's okay,
You
you've
won't
seen
forget
what
it
it
this time.
is, you understand what it does, but like, do you really? Like,
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
how long did it take you to figure out how camshafts worked? Like, really worked? Like, after you were familiar with cars in motors, and then you like one day were like, but the camshaft, like, how does that really work?
I wouldn't even say I still fully understand it because like I just
That's my point, right?
engines aren't my thing.
It's
They
just
never
not
have
something you're
been.
familiar with, right? And you need
Yeah,
the
I'm like
familiarity.
it's like well I like yeah, you get the basic idea of like yeah, it's shaped and so it like affects the how long it's open and you know there's an acceleration. And you start thinking about it and you're like but there's an inertial element to this thing and so there's how do I make sure that it stays contained and then based on the ramp like how am I going to affect the wear? What about all the rockers? And you're like you start going down the line and you're like wait a minute, that's a lot of shit to get
And then
like
the more you know,
thought about.
the more you realize you don't know, which makes you want to go learn more.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Sorry, I wanted to bring this up. I was gonna text you last night, but then I was like, no, we have a podcast today. This would be a perfect time to do it. Um, I was right because we had this like whole understeer conversation that it entirely started because I was trying to understand the scientific definition of understeer in Gigiani's book and like texted you and you're like, yeah, I'll do a quick short and get back to you. And like a day and a half later, you're like, so I spent all this time on this and I think I finally understand now. And here's all these things. And we had like a conversation about it. And so last night I'm reading Advanced Tire Mechanics, right? And it's on GM's tip numbers, right? The HGF number. They have like these GM developed these values basically that you get from steady state, like low speed steady state tire force and moment. They're like, these are really good predictors. And one of them, I'm like looking at the graph and I'm looking at the way that it goes and like it's slip angle versus this. And I'm like, oh shit, it's understeer. Like it was like I had this moment. I looked at the graph and I'm like, oh shit, it's understeer for tires because we
yeah.
had that whole conversation the day before. And I'm like, oh man. So now I'm planning a short out where I'm like, okay, we're gonna run like this understeer thing like that you did, and like I'm gonna try to take that and package it out a little differently.
How'd you
And
like
then
those
like,
3D graphs?
oh, they're so good.
Dude, the what did I call it? The Great Wall of Instability.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah, when
like
you look at it in 3D,
yeah,
it's like
and
yeah,
then like looking at
this is
it
why oversteer's bad.
yeah, and then like looking at it, of course, but then of course you do it in Excel, so it's like fucking like 100 by 100 column, like 100 columns
I wanted
by
it to be
100 rows
clear.
of just numbers, and you're like, oh my god. But like when you're scrolling across, you're like, oh yeah, no, 100% that's what it is. But like I want to do that, and then like I want to like, and then I want to take it a little further through like GM's tip tire stability
Yeah.
like thing, which it was kind of crazy because I worked for GM. I did tires at GM. So like
Uh-huh.
I am familiar with this stuff. I talked to the people who created that. Um
Mm-hmm.
and so it was like then reading about it in a textbook and I'm like, "Oh shit, like this is kind of cool." Cuz if my memory is correct, it was like developed like at least in part by Dave Howland at GM and he's brilliant tire guy. Who does the same thing, like you kind of said, like he spent his entire thing being like, I am an expert when it comes to tires, and I spend most of my time like physically at the flat tracks.
Well, one of my internships, I had to develop this model where most people don't realize this, but roads have a crown on them so that water runs
Yep.
off, right? And So cars back in the day had asymmetric alignment so that they would drive up the crown, so that you
Mm-hmm.
could let go of the steering wheel and the car would track straight on a crowned road.
Yep.
Okay. Well, in modern times, we're like, hey, we could just build that into the tire,
Uh-huh.
right? And have symmetrical alignments and symmetrical cars.
Yep.
Okay. Well, how do you quantify that? How do you measure it? How do you simulate it? So we had this old like software pack that some engineer had designed, but nobody could figure out how to use, and nobody knew what was inside of it. So my main job during my internship, when I wasn't doing vehicle testing, was to deconstruct this simulator and figure out how it worked, come up with all the math, build the entire system. And what it was is you put in your car's hard points, you put in the um, yeah, the entire suspension and steering geometry, everything, and then a lot of tire data. And basically, this thing simulates what the steering wheel torque is
Mm-hmm.
driving down a crown so that you could pick your, what, RSAT? Is that what it was
Well, I
back in the
guess
day?
you were. I assume you were using. I'm assuming you were using what PRAT.
Well, so I had never heard of PRAT until like the year after that. So this would have been
Yeah.
like 2012. And then all of a sudden, RSAT just disappeared. And then PRAT
Was
became
well, RSAT would be what residual static
self
aligning
aligning
torque,
torque.
self aligning torque. Yeah. PRAT
Yeah.
would be pi. I always forget what the P is. You know, you ever do that too, where like you've been using an acronym long enough, you're like, wait, shit, what does it actually stand for?
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, PRAT or Kinicity,
I
right? I guess
had one.
it'd be weird to do Kinicity
I had
sorts to
one.
like do Crown though, because then if you're not on Crown, you would just
We could also measure kineticity with it too.
yeah,
I actually do have a plug real quick. So
yeah,
the talking about jumping into the equations and learning new things, ride frequency is like one of the easiest first things you kind of learn. It's pretty straightforward conceptually,
yeah.
and we would always say, okay, we're going to start with a 1.15 ride ratio, which is the ratio of the rear ride frequency to the front. That's where we
Mm-hmm.
start, and then we'll get in the car and feel it out because most of our assumptions were off by some amount, anyways.
Yeah.
And like I've had cars end up around like the 109, and I've had cars end up at like 125 ride
Okay.
ratio. And some of the high speed off road stuff is like sometimes it's a negative, or it's a ride ratio is under one. It's like a 0.9, 0.95.
So that's what the front dam or the front damps out
The
after.
rear is a lower ride frequency than the front.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It prevents the cars from
Yes.
going head over heels or
Yes.
heels over head. I don't know. And so like when I really started getting into the math for this calculator, um, I wanted to actually simulate what the well, I've got it.
Yeah. We can sort of see that. We can sort of see the shirt.
Well, yeah, so there's suspension on this is geometry, calculating springs based off geometry and spring stiffness and tire stiffness. And then the back is like your actual ride stuff. But I've got some cool things here that'll make it a little easier. I have a shop towel. These just showed up today, by the way, so I just unpacked them.
Yeah. The
Shop
shop
towel
towel
has
is a
the same
cool
thing that
addition.
the shirt and hoodie does, and it's a little hard to see. Um, and then we've got this mouse pad. And I was going to copy and paste everything, but Bibbs is about doing the right things for the right reasons, and just copy pasting something onto everything is not doesn't sound right to me. So I put a little extra hints and info on everything. They're all a little different, and you should be able to see it on this mat here. But there is a so this is the how to for everything. But if we look at the ride section, there's an equation somewhere right here,
There it is.
and it is the ride ratio equation.
Yep.
I have never seen that before. And what I realized when I tried to line these lines up, which is a front and rear axle input, was that there is no consistent ride ratio, because if you are considering going over a bump where the front goes up, you continue, the rear goes up, and they have to meet in the middle, like so that you land flat and go up flat. That's completely dependent on speed and wheelbase, right?
Yep.
So the same ride ratio on something, if it's flat at 60, it won't be flat at 90.
Correct.
Ironically, the way a robust ratio works is it's pretty flat over a broad range, which is why it's ideal. But really, wheelbase and speed fundamentally come into it. And so I'm like, okay, well, how do I quantify that? So if I tell someone that the ratio to pick is somewhere between 1.1 and 1.25, that's a vast amount of spring rates you can still back calculate and choose from. That's not very helpful. Sorry,
Nope.
I got the hiccups. So I was like, well, how do we figure out how it works fundamentally? Because that's where to start, right? You start at the mathematics, acknowledge they deviate, go from there. And so I said, okay, here's my front response from the impact, and here's my rear response from the impact. Well, what is flat ride? It's where essentially the way you feel it is you bottom out flat and you come up flat. But what you're doing is you're minimizing pitch. The whole point is to minimize pitch. And because you have dampers, really one cycle is all you need to worry about. So if you have flat ride, you can go over multiple random cycles and still stay flat because the suspension pumps together
Mm-hmm.
instead of bouncing like crazy. It's so I was like, okay, well, minimizing, taking the RMS of the pitch curve, which is the difference in angle between the front and rear axle, and if you minimize the RMS of that sine wave, then that's the minimum pitch, right? It has to be. And so I optimized in Excel. I kept changing the ride ratios a little bit until I got the RMS minimized. And then I kind of made sense of why that worked. And I came up with this equation, which was the ride ratio is equal to 1 over 1 minus the front ride ratio times the impact delay. And the impact delay is simply wheelbase over vehicle speed. So what that's essentially saying is if you're at unity, you have 1. So instead of just looking at the numbers, you need to look at equations like physical phenomenon, right? So you got 1 on the top, and then you've got 1 minus the front ratio times the impact delay. Now, if you're shooting for a ride ratio of 1, for whatever reason, um, your impact delay in your front ride frequency have to basically be 0, which isn't possible, right? Um, and so if you kind of look at the way the equation forms, when your front ride frequency goes up, your ride ratio gets smaller because the number on the bottom is getting it's 1 minus 1 point plus some time frame. And so like if your impact delay gets bigger,
Yep.
then you get more negative.
Yep.
Um, that's not the relevant part.
I'm like
It's 1
following, but
minus
I'm,
some factor. So if that
yeah.
factor, the ride ratio and the speed gets bigger or smaller, it moves in direction one way or the other.
Yeah.
And so I kind of picked up on that, and then I tried to force a fit to that RMS, and that's the equation I came up with. And I'm like, huh. So I typed in a couple wheelbases in vehicle speeds that I knew of and front ride frequencies that I knew of cars I put in production. So they were measured very well. I could tell you the valve code inside a Grand Cherokee damper still. I've stared at the
Sure.
like after all these years, it's just ingrained, and I'm like, hey, this equation, I graphed it within 3% fell into these. It correlated to the front ride frequency and the ride ratio of every car I've ever put into production within 3%. Now, I've never put into production a race car, and I've never put into production a little tiny wheelbase car. But like when you run the math out, you kind of learn some stuff. I'm like, wow, this is actually a really cool equation, and I'm gonna graph it. And so like on the graphics that I made, I actually made a little graph to try to help people because no one's gonna look at that equation in like we just did and be like, oh yeah, if one gets bigger, the other gets smaller, blah blah. It doesn't make sense. But what does make sense is if you tell yourself, hey, if you've got a fast moving short car, you need a really high ride ratio because the rear has to really catch up. And so that's the blue one.
Yep.
And if you've got a slow moving long truck, which is this pink one, um, it the ride ratio doesn't have to be as fast because it's longer and it takes longer to get there.
Yeah. And
Um,
I want to stop for a second
yep.
and just illustrate something. This is something that you developed. This is something you do on a regular basis, and this is something that you know, and it still takes a second to think it through.
Yeah. Yeah.
People don't quite understand how much work it takes to get to a point where you understand something. And then if you're still not using it every day, you're going to have to go back and
Yeah.
like review it. Because I've had this conversation with an FSAE student where they were like, yeah, I didn't really like learn linear algebra in college. Like they're not teaching it at this school. And I was like, well, first of all, I'm sorry because I feel your pain. I wasn't fucking taught linear algebra either in undergrad for some stupid reason. So I've had to teach it myself. And I'm like, but you can learn it. Like
I've learned so much
you're
on my
gonna
own.
have to do so much on the job. Like every time you go to do something new, you're gonna have to go back and do professional review. Like you're gonna have to do it because you're not gonna remember every little thing.
And to your
It's
point, what I said was actually backwards because I wasn't even thinking about it in the moment. A long, slow truck needs a higher rear because it has to catch up quicker. Where a
I
short,
was
fast vehicle, they can be closer together because it's moving so fast and it's short.
yeah.
To be clear.
Yeah. No.
Um,
And but like it takes a minute. So like I want people to understand you have a business that you're running. You're also an expert in vehicle dynamics, and it's not like you can just remember all this shit off the top of your head, right?
yeah,
It takes preparation. People don't realize. I think honestly, one of the things I'm the most proud of the content that I do. People don't know this. I don't have scripts. I don't write scripts.
it's obvious.
It, jackass.
I don't either. Maybe I
Um,
should.
I put the whiteboard together. Like that's why I do the whiteboard because I write everything down. I write my notes. Like I kind of feel it, and then but like I have to know it well enough
Yeah,
to
dude.
present it.
So like when I was like, yeah, let me just make a quick video and get back to you. I did. I ran out to the garage because I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're asking. And so like I put my camera up and started recording and started talking and writing the equations out on the board and doing the graphs and solving them. And I'm like, and this is how it works. And then I go look at the video and it was like 8, 9 minutes. And I'm like, oh, that's not going to fit in a reel. And
Yeah.
so then like went to try it again and I got it from 8.5 to 8. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. But then I was like looking at something. I'm like, wait a minute. Do I not know? Like, if I can't, if you're like, hey, how does this work? And I can't go from a camshaft does this because, and the atom is like this because. If I can't go from the function down to like literally the molecular level, and actually, if you want to talk about molecules and camshafts, there's so much quality content on
Oh.
camshafts and
So we
molecules.
are at an hour 12, so no.
Um, but like I went back in, did some research, looked up, 4 hours had gone by. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I told him I'd send him something real quick. And so then I'm like, okay, I got to go out and record this. I probably spent an hour and a half trying to get that 8 minutes of content down to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And it didn't look great. I was,
It's
you
it's
have to
hard.
be familiar with that stuff to even understand what the hell I'm talking about. Cause I don't know how you like distill all that down like so simply. And maybe it's just because my tism has me deep diving into everything that I think like to get this concept, you have to understand everything. And well, that's not true.
I will say that my approach to this, which I do think has been good so far, is I really and I can tell when I don't do this because my numbers aren't as good. Um I really have to just be like, all right, here's the thing, right? The thing that you're looking at. And then this is what it does. And here's a nice graph. And like if you do
Yeah.
like this, that, and that, like, and you don't go any deeper, like you can at least get the point across to like not to me, right? Like somebody like where I'm trying to fully understand it, but like to somebody who just wants to understand, okay, why does my CG matter to my lateral load transfer? That's simple. That's a basic
Yeah.
equation.
And then someone like me looks at your lateral load transfer drawing and is like, that's not going to teach anything, which isn't true because you're not trying to teach me vehicle dynamics,
No.
and that's what I need to like. That's something I don't think I struggle to remember it or struggle to think about it, but like I really got to remember back to how little I didn't know in the beginning and how things looked and sounded and felt. And so, like, I've actually developed quite a bit of empathy towards people who try to discuss things with me
Yeah.
because I find everything so interesting. Like, and people don't.
No.
But, like, I also haven't been super social basically since COVID happened. And it's me with some of my online friends who are into dynamics, and then my girlfriend who she's a good listener, and I'll have an idea and I'll spit this out. And like now she watches like big influencers with huge budgets and expensive cars doing something, and she'll be like, "Well, that sounds terrible. Like, don't do that." And I'm like proud because I'm like she actually recognizes that stuff just because she hears me. So I'm kind of in a bubble of like state space in linear matrices are just like second nature. Like,
Yeah, and
and
they're not
people
for
aren't
like
like that. And I and it's that's also been a thing when I started making these products. They were perfect, but like the end user doesn't have the same skill and mechanical understanding I do. And so like I was selling some of these kits, people were installing the shifters backwards and upside down in their car. Like I'm
yeah,
not even kidding. And I'm just
yeah,
like here's the video. You just follow the video, and like it's so like instructions became important. But
yeah. No, there's a lot, and it's not like to insult anyone's intelligence at all.
it's just
It
experience and
it is.
familiarity.
Yeah, it's like I I'm good at explaining stuff to people. That's probably my biggest strength.
Yeah, I
Um,
same.
I'm I'm not the smartest at it. I don't claim to be, but I'm really good at making it digestible.
Yeah,
And
communication's super important.
there was this. It reminds me. There was this reel I saw the other day that it was the x-axis was smart and the y-axis was funny.
Yep.
And basically like the joke was that it's a like it's a two peak, right? So you go up and then you'll go back down and you'll go back up and then you'll go back down. And like I sit nicely on the second peak of like smart funny. Like I'm not so smart that I can't be funny anymore. Um like I can still be clever, but like I'm like, oh shit, if I now I'm like I'm watching that and I'm like, man, I maybe I shouldn't study so hard. Maybe like I just gotta keep being funny and that'll succeed for social media.
Dude, I love the videos I post, but like not many people do, and that's fine.
Nah.
I'm not doing it to be popular, and honestly, this cheat sheet stuff is the first time that my social media has really mattered for anything. Like I can't get product out quick enough, so like having customers isn't the issue. Having one-off customers with a lot of money that I could use. So if I can figure
Yeah.
out how to market that, because like I'll build your entire car and design it if
Yeah.
you pay me. But it's
Yeah.
this whole production stuff that is really difficult out of a two-car garage on 110
Yeah.
with a day
Which
job.
like fine, okay, cool. If you're gonna pay me all this money, then I'll bake in the machine shop.
Yeah,
I'll bake
yeah,
in the professional. It's just
yeah,
if you want to buy this shit off the shelf, then you're gonna have to expect some. You're gonna have to expect me to charge a little bit more, man, because I gotta pay somebody else's margins too.
yeah. Um, but like I put so much detail into things because I think it's important. But like not many people think the way I do, which has become very apparent in recent years too.
Oh yeah, no,
It's
that's
so
you are an anomaly, dude.
I
It's not in a bad way. You
I
just
just
are like
I like I don't know. I like the math. I like the
you
figuring
have
stuff out. I don't know.
you've
I
got
don't
like a
like not knowing
mentality
things.
of a scientist,
Yeah,
right?
I
And
want to go
being an
back to school
engineer.
so bad. Yeah,
I so I don't think I ever told you the reason I became an engineer.
you needed a paycheck.
No.
That's why I became an engineer
So
to
I
do
didn't know
Viper
what I
stuff.
was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do right with my life.
I was going to be an SRT engineer, so I got the Viper GTS
I
patent
forgot
barcode
about that.
tattooed on my forearm.
No, like legitimately in high school, I was like, I got three things. I was like, I'm either going to go into like law or like medicine. Like those were the two things I was going to do.
That's what I was
But I
told
like
to do.
my physics class. I like my physics class. Well, yeah, I was going to do those two things because they're good for money. But I liked my physics class, and I had this teacher, and he was an ex Air Force pilot, Mr. Schlopkel.
Okay.
Um, yeah, Polish guy, I think. And he said to me one day, he's like, Mike, you're not smart enough to be a researcher or a scientist, but you are a solid B student, and you would make a fantastic engineer. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm in.
I just missed the like testing and finding secrets in the physical world that nobody's ever discovered before. It's our ancestors crossed the Mississippi. I want to
Make shift kits for Hondas.
I really nice ones, bro. They're so
I
nice
know. I'm just
when they're
joking.
in stock. Uh, um,
No, but like there is something to be said though, right? About being like, like let's say like someday, right? Society looks back on it and they're like, he did make the best fucking Honda shifter. Like that would feel pretty good, right? To be like, you are the best at like one thing. It doesn't matter if it's like shift kits, whatever. It's like you are the best at this one thing. Like that is cool.
so here's my whole thing with I. I acknowledge that I'm not the fastest guy around a racetrack. Like when we went karting as vehicle dynamics guys, I would be mid to front pack, but never in front. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I back then I was 320 pounds, and your average dynamics engineer was like 120 to 150. But
Were they not when I was in your group? Not when I was in the
oh
group.
no, oh so when you like around the time you left, all the old
Yeah.
guys left, and then we
Okay.
brought in a ton of kids.
I was gonna say because like Nate wasn't a small guy,
No,
Darius wasn't
no,
a small guy.
you left right
Um,
around the mass exodus, where like
I
everybody with experience left.
This is a weird thing, right? It's like every time I've left a company, it has been when a mass exodus has happened. So I have realized
Interesting.
that I am the harbinger of I am the harbinger of discontent. Um,
Well, I mean, you
so,
did complain a lot back then, so maybe people just heard it and woke up and were like, you know what, he's right.
yeah, it was kind of a shitty group, man. Like I liked the guys, but it was kind of a shitty group.
Dude, I did like I would ask my boss when I first started, like, hey, it's like 5 o'clock, can I go home? And he's like, yeah, why are you asking? And I'm like, because everybody else is still here and they're sitting on their computers and nobody's working. And so
Yeah,
I'm just like, I just started going home at 4 if I was done, and I felt weird, you know.
yeah.
But
No, it was. It just I honestly, it was like you really. It was. Did they really expect to hire the dude who was engaged? Right, was going to be getting married. Like I got divorced from her anyway, eventually. But right, like I was engaged, ready to get married, and I get in. Like one of the first fucking things somebody tells me is, "Yeah, the divorce rate in this group is like 70%." And I'm like, "Oh, great."
that might have been me.
I think it might have been.
You and I butted heads a lot. I was a little more right wing back then, and you were willfully spoken of your
We
opinions.
were, well, we were both.
I was trying to fit in. You didn't
I,
have a whole lot of people that you wanted to fit in with.
no, also like we both had ego, right? Because I didn't want
Yeah,
to be I didn't want to be the dipshit newbie, you know?
yeah.
And like
I wanted to
I
be the
had
know-it-all.
some and I did too, right? I like neither of us were totally equipped for that. And we are about the same age and like we were kind of getting into it. And honestly, like the 2 hour drive each way that I had didn't help. If
Yeah,
I lived a little bit closer, I might have stuck around longer. But then I ended up in tires, which was cool, right? Because I got to see like a side of the industry very few people get to see.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
like
So
seeing
like
inside
my
the tire
thing
side.
is, I want to be known for the ability to set up a car. I don't
Mhm.
care if I win, but I am convinced, because like it's hard to talk about this without sounding full of yourself, right?
I think
But
you got to have a little bit of it.
I don't know too many other engineers out there who developed an entire platform on their own. Like
Oh,
the new Grand Cherokee, the short wheelbase and the long wheelbase non-air suspension version. I did everything on that car except the steering tuning. Like,
sorry, I have to digress one more time. Um, that is another. It is like it is the pinnacle of everything that bugs me about Jeep because the Compass, aside from the fucking engines, is actually pretty good. Like you get rid of the powertrain and it's pretty good. And the Grand Cherokee, I want to love that thing, but the motor sucks.
yeah.
And it's like everything aside from that, like I've driven one, I've been inside them. I
The
love the new
PHEV
Grand
is
Cherokee.
sick. Put full regen on and you've got like a super nimble car, man.
Yeah, except for the fact that it's a Stellantis PHEV, which does not have the best reliability. I
True,
owned a
true,
Pacifica, so
true.
like, which by the way, a mutual connection of ours who currently works at a competitor to Stellantis, who does dynamics things, was rather offended when I gave my honest feedback on the Pacifica because I said it is dog shit.
That's funny.
He was pretty upset. He's like, "I think it's pretty good." I'm like, "No, it's fucking awful. Like, I hate this car. I hate this car so much. I hated the Pacifica so much. I bought a 70,000 mile Audi Q7.
That's a jump. That's a good car though.
Oh, the
But
Q7's
like
great
I was
when it works.
trusted to do that
Yeah,
because when manpower was low, you could send me out to Arizona for 3 months, and I'd come back with a production representative car
yeah,
on my own. And then I started working with a lot of damper suppliers doing damper tuning, and they had headcount issues too for a while, and so they wouldn't have a ride engineer, they'd have a ride tech for doing the dyno measurements and the rebuilding. And the dyno tech is like, hey man, like I feel like I should know how to do this stuff, and I'm like, get in the car, let's go. And so I would teach their ride techs how to do ride tuning.
yeah,
And a lot of these damper suppliers, they'd be like, yeah, John Cotton, he knows shit, he could feel stuff that our dynos couldn't. Like I'd figure out two valve codes that looked identical no matter how you measured them, but be like, hey, do you feel this? And they'd be like, yeah. All right, now do you feel this? And be like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's different. And they kind of go through the valve stack and explain mechanically what I think's happening. And so I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal here, but like I objectively did things that other people told me they hadn't seen other people do. And I would pick up things that other well practiced engineers didn't. And maybe early on I couldn't quite explain it, but my dad told me my entire life I'm just such a sensitive guy, that I think that sensitivity really helped me out career wise. I mean,
that was
sensors
honestly
get
that was like a stand-up level setup. That was like a 10-minute story been going on just for the joke of
my daddy
my
don't
dad
love
told me I was this.
hey, in
My
the
dad told me I was a sensitive guy would make such a good shirt, by the way.
oh, I could do that. Yeah. Sensors, the more sensitive they are, the more valuable they are. So I don't see the problem really. It's how you
No,
look
I
at
would
life.
say so.
But
Yeah.
like
No.
between everything that I've done, and not many people have followed the path that I have. I don't really know of too many. It's so weird how vehicle dynamics guys just don't really get into cars. They'll throw tires and brake pads on a stock car because they like driving, but like I like the creation and in the
Yeah.
optimization. And I think like in grassroots motorsports at least, that what I lack in driving skill, whether or not I do, because I have no comparison to the rest of the world, but within vehicle
Yeah.
dynamics, I was average.
Yeah.
Those guys do a lot of driving.
Yeah.
But I think I can be competitive. And there's a lot of stuff that I see guys with expensive race cars with a lot of sponsors where I see their cars doing things on the track. And it's just like, you're giving up so much time and like stability. And I got a video I got to send you. You're gonna love it. I'll find it. I'll send it to you. But it's a hill climb, I think, in Europe, and it
Mhm.
was ranging from like crazy homemade Evo builds with 1,000 horsepower to rally cars to full on GT Le Mans cars.
Okay.
And the cars that looked the fastest were the slowest,
Oh yeah.
and the cars that had the most high level engineering were the fastest. So the Mercedes GTR, like tall ride height, tons of wheel gap. It's
Yep.
that thing's built to survive 24 hours at Le Mans, right?
Yep.
Um, that thing was doing this, like moving, going down the track, fastest lap time. But as it moved, it pumped. It didn't bounce. It didn't do this. When it
Yeah.
came into corners, the rear wasn't skipping, like
Yeah.
and messing up turn in. And it's just like you have all these cars, and the fastest cars were the rally cars with the softest suspension on a
Yep.
completely smooth pavement hill climb, right?
I think people don't quite grasp like, and I realize this. I say this as somebody who's not as experienced as you are in this. The
I also have zero
equations.
experience racing.
No, but I mean,
So,
like, you understand the math behind it. Like the, but the basics, very, very basics of understanding why we have suspensions, it becomes rather obvious. Like cars are running very stiff because they need to control the aerodynamics.
yeah.
You get outside of that, there's not a ton of reason to be doing that.
Hey, those
Like
rally
there's
cars had some big arrow on them too. I mean, they're
yeah,
not
but
going 200, but
no, but right, like they're not necessarily using the arrow like an F1
right,
car uses arrow. Like F1 does the thing that it does because it's a very, very specific, very controlled environment.
right.
I'm sorry, fucking Brandon from Missouri, but your S13 doesn't need it. It just doesn't, you know?
And people don't really think about the tire either. Like you can overwork a tire. Like
Oh, yeah.
you want your tire and your suspension to work together to
Yes.
be as responsive as possible and to dissipate as much energy as possible
Yes.
going over any undulations, right? If you're on a glass
Yes.
track, be a go-kart, that's fine.
Yeah.
Unless you hit a curb or unless you get loose or
Yeah. Just don't hit the
whatever.
curb. You're good.
But um, if you're, let's say you hit a bump, right? You hit a small bump, not where it really upsets the car, but it upsets the unsprung mass. And so you hit this bump, and your springs are super stiff. And so as you go over the bump, your tire compresses a ton because your spring doesn't, right? And
Yep.
as you come off the bump, it does push up the car a little bit, not to upset it, but it is pushing the car up. So now the car's going up as you go across the bump. You have a really stiff spring, so that helps, but you've loaded the tire so much, it's still moving up as you crest the top, and the car's upset. And you want the highest normal pressure on the tire patch you can get. So on the other side of that bump, you're not putting any normal force down on the downslope of that event. And so it's kind of like jumping in the air, right? You're not really,
Yeah.
and that's on a
No,
microscopic level, but
no
like
touchy, no grippy.
no
Like,
touchy, no grippy, exactly. And so like,
yeah.
but that can also happen when you're going down like a rough road. So like
Yeah.
the molecular camshaft thing, 30-second overview. If you grind the cam a certain way, you can double its surface area without changing its shape at all. And that's because it's at a microscopic level. And so comp cams, they have this process where they zoom in on the surface and they say, hey, you got this profile. We're going to grind them and polish them this way. And then they remeasure them. And guess what? You have twice the molecules touching the rocker as you had before. The cam's the exact same shape, but now your surface area is doubled. That's pretty good for wear and friction.
Yeah. I don't like knowing that. Um, this makes me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, but tires are the
Like,
same way.
no, it is. It is.
Like
Um,
you want the highest normal pressure with the least fluctuation as possible. And if your springs are too damn stiff for your tire, because you have a spring, you have a mass, and then you have a bunch of springs and damping,
yep.
and your damper does the damping, your tire doesn't do the damping. You
Yeah,
know,
it has a some, but not enough to really like not in the vehicle care sense, right?
right?
Like, um, the damping that's coming out of the tire is really
And
more
that
related to
Mercedes
like
GTR had a ton of
energy
aero.
dissipation. You know.
It had a ton of aero. It was still stiff, but it was balanced.
Yes.
The frequency between the chassis and the tire was balanced. The energy like you see these
That
high
was
level Le Mans cars that are insanely stiff and they're going down these bumpy roads and they're just going.
yeah.
And then you watch a video of a month later of a dude in some high level amateur motorsports with a home built thing and he's going down that same section in his not Le Mans car and the thing is just going crazy. And it's like you're giving up energy, like you're
Yeah.
giving up efficiency, right?
Yep.
Um,
I think we'll have to end in a minute here, but
yeah,
one of the things that pissed me off the most being like an engineer is I've always hated everything with like respect to relating to frequency. Like I
with
hate
what?
with frequency. I just
Oh
hate
yeah,
frequencies. I hate dealing with frequencies. It was something that never made sense to me, and I realized that everything's fucking related to frequencies. And I'm just like, it's a head on the desk moment. I'm just like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna buckle down and figure this out better. Um,
there was
or
a
as my
transition
daughter,
when I was in dynamics where
yeah,
the older guys would talk about spring rates and the younger guys would be like, no, frequencies. And it's
yes,
because the older guys weren't super educated. They just they called them cowboys back in the day. They just go out, handle cars, not serious engineers. And it's like no, even if it's a single event, like dampers are a thing. It's a single cycle. Like everything is frequency related.
do you think that the new engineers coming in are more experienced because it's more competitive, or just because the programs for them to understand like what they need to get into is better?
I
Because
that's a I can't really answer that question because technically speaking, this is the first time in human history that the people coming out of school are less capable than the previous generation. That's an issue.
Yeah,
So
I was just more thinking like with these guys going into dynamics, right? Because like I've talked to some of
so
the
the
FSE
education
students,
is much
right?
better,
Like, yeah,
if you have people really focused on it. I haven't hung out with 20-year-olds in a while, so like I don't really know
I
what's going on.
I
But
haven't
like
either.
some of them I run into, even in engineering, they don't seem to have a passion for finding the answers, I guess.
No, I would
And I
agree.
think that's where things are going to be difficult.
They
Um,
kind of they collect knowledge, they don't apply it. Seems maybe
yeah.
that's been my
Um,
experience at least.
I
Like they
mean, if it
collect
weren't for
like
the younger guys that came
basics.
in after you left, that exodus, like I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't have gone back to grad school.
yeah. My unfortunately my going back to grad school was did not happen because I left the company that was paying.
I
Which
won't.
granted, I got more on the job experience in tires than I ever would have if I
Right.
had stayed. So I know more about tires now than I would have.
I just want to be Doctor
Yeah.
Dynamics. I want a PhD in vehicle dynamics, man.
So okay. Anyway, this has been great. It's been long, but it's coming up on 9 o'clock, and I have children, and I like to go to sleep at about 10.
I'm
So
working on getting them. So
yeah. So you'll understand. You'll understand in a couple in a year or so.
all right, I got a
Um,
poster coming out, but if you want to learn about vehicle dynamics, this is ride frequency handling. Should be out by the end of the month.
yep, and we will be promoting that. I will be helping you promote that as well. I'm sure. So
Sick.
cool. This has been fun. We'll definitely do it again.
I think we got some good
And
topics we can come up with.
absolutely,
All right, man.
absolutely.
Later.